Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations. Thanks for joining me today. Now today we have another dump find. So my sister sent me a picture of this metal suitcase. Now, it's pretty dirty and it's pretty worn. So this looks pretty good. This side is pretty worn and rusty, as is the bottom. The inside, whoops. All right, this opens all the way. Has this ugly fake wood paper decoupage glued in there. So all of that has to be pulled up and is going to be a mess and is not going to be a nice, smooth, even surface. So I don't know quite what I have kind of a rough idea of the outside. I don't have a clue on the inside. I have to get all that stuff pulled off and then see how disgusting it is and decide. Obviously, it all needs a good clean, but I was thinking that before I started cleaning it, I wanted to see, so before I washed it all down, I wanted to see how much, I really wanted to have a little cup over here. Okay, this is nothing paper. So this is Barkeeper's Friend. So it's just like a soft cleanser. This is just a little stencil brush. And what I want to do is just kind of apply this on to some of these clasps and fixtures here. I don't necessarily want to clean everything. Like, I don't want all of the metal to potentially go to new. So I don't think it would anyway, so it's just as well. I'm not looking for that. But I thought maybe if it cleaned up a little bit better than how it currently looked, it may give me a better contrast. Now, part of the decision about the suitcase itself is whether I end up just sealing the rust in, so leave it the old rusty look, or whether I paint it out and potentially make it new. My inclination is not to paint it. Maybe clean up the hardware a little bit, make this stand out a little bit. And you can see I've just applied the Barkeeper's Friend and I'm just leaving it to soak a little bit to do some of its magic while I'm talking. But I'm thinking, I just want to wash it. I just want to clean it. And then we'll carry on from there. I think part of the allure of this piece for me was the rust. Was it looking old and kind of worn and decrepit looking? So I don't really think I want to paint it. I want to zhuzh it up a little. I want to make it a more fun piece for somebody to have in their home, use as a decor piece, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to look new. Okay, let's just see. You can see here. This was my splotch of the original Barkeepers, and this is what I'm getting off right now. I've got an old rag. You can see it's old. There's no point in getting new because it's just going to get icky. And this is what I have instead. You can see that actually it's not so much brass as dirty. So I'm kind of liking the fact that this part is staying kind of gold, right? And then this part is looking more like it was just really tarnished silverized metal. So I'm probably gonna carry on with cleaning that, because now that I got all that gook off, I'm not feeling too good about giving it to somebody with all that gook. And probably it had kind of that finish on it, and it's just so old it's wearing off. So it probably looked more gold when it was new, and it's just not new anymore. All right, so I'm gonna clean the metal. I'm gonna clean the whole piece on the outside. I'm gonna rip that stuff out of the inside and wash all that down too. So then working with a clean piece, I may end up adding like a Rub and Buff product onto here to be able to make it a little bit spiffier looking. But I want to get it all washed off first. So let me get all that done and then we'll see what we're working with. Okay, I've got this as clean as it's going to get. I did get a lot of rust off, but it doesn't mean the rust is gone because it's worn through that blue paint color, but it does mean all of that excess is gone. I've decided I'm leaving it this color. I don't want it to be pristine. I think if I wanted to paint it so it looked brand new, I would be better off starting with a newer Suitcase, if that makes sense. So I'm leaving the rust. I'm leaving it looking old and beat up and tarnished. And what we're going to do is I opened this transfer from IOD. This is the Collage de Fleurs. I've used it on one project, but I have tons of florals and vines and things left. So I'm gonna use a bunch of these. And what I expect to do is have them all over both sides. I'm gonna do the bottom as well because I could see somebody using this like as a tabletop as this, and you know, obviously you could store things. The inside is pretty grungy. I got that stuff off, but the top and the bottom are cardboard. And then the edgings are old slats of wood that are really uneven. Not all of the paper came off. I did sand it down to get most of it, but I wasn't gonna fight with all of the glue, and especially because the cardboard is just never going to be smooth again. I had debated popping the cardboard out, like cutting it out and doing another cardboard insert and doing all that stuff. And then I decided that that was more work than this particular project warranted. Now, if you were doing it for yourself, it would maybe make sense to make that investment in time, but I'm not doing it for myself, and I'm not going to be able to charge for all of that time, and so it doesn't make sense. So sometimes, I like to point out to you, like when I'm taking some shortcuts, in this instance, not cutting away the existing cardboard and trying to find more cardboard that fits and measuring out and doing all that stuff, it's because of the additional time expense. I get that the cardboard doesn't cost a lot, so it's not because of the material expense, it's the time. And when you are operating your own small business, as I am here with my shop, or you may be with putting things into a booth or a market, you have to take into consideration how much a finished project you are going to be able to charge, and then how much time and the cost of the materials used you can afford to put into it. So it doesn't make good business sense if everything works out to be break even. Again, if I'm doing it for myself or I'm doing it for a loved one, I'm just going to be giving it away, then I can choose to invest as much time as I want. In this case, I'm not doing it for me. So what I am looking at doing then is I do think that I will use some of these vines, and there's, okay, let me get that out of the way. I do think I'm going to use some of these vines, so I'm just going to cut out all of them. They're in kind of this long row, and certainly I can cut any of them apart into smaller pieces as needed. But I think that they will give some definition, and I'm going to do some of these as well on the back. I'm gonna do them over the rest, and I think that they'll stick. Once I've done them, once I've applied all of the transfers, then I will go back and I will seal them with a polyacrylic top coat. So because I sell both products, I will use either a tough coat by Fusion or Big Top by DIY. Either of them work, but so would the polyacrylic of your choice. So I don't like to mislead you about the necessity of using product just because it's what I have. There's going to be times that I will definitely recommend product that I have because it's the best. In which case then you will know and understand that's definitely what I'm recommending. But when, you know, you can get a similar effect with virtually anything and you've got some of that other stuff on your shelf, then it doesn't make sense for you to go out and buy something other than that. All right, so I just wanted to get a start on this. Some of the rust sections are still a little damp, so I can't get started on them, but I can certainly get started on this. Now, because I'm going to be doing it on all sides, some to a greater extent than others, I'm prepared to wrap this. So I'm just kind of looking, going, this guy could be a start. I may want to have some of these vines coming out and up and over so that I get some continuity, some pattern carrying. But I'm going to start here, I think. Let me just see about some of these other florals, because I'm going to want more than just that one. And because you can layer these on top of each other, I just want to see which one I want foreground and which one as background. This has a little butterfly on it, so I don't want to lose that butterfly. Just, you know, I like them. Okay, so I'm thinking maybe those, and then I could have something coming up. I don't want to cover the whole surface, but it does mean this one goes down first. So leaf tip right there. So I'm peeling off the backing paper. This starts to stick on slick surfaces as soon as you get it on there. Oh, maybe I want you growing that way. Oh, now I'm just totally changing things. Okay, that still works right in around there. All right. Now, I had my tool before I started putting everything over top of everything. Oh, for heaven's sakes. I actually pulled out 2 tools. All right, well, I don't know where it went. So, your transfer will always come with the little plastic tool to be able to rub your transfer on. I don't know where it went. I'm just using what I have. A little scraper tool works as well. I get some people that say, oh, I lost my tool, what could I use? You can use just about anything. You can use a little rubber scraper, you know, I have a little wooden knife, that would work. So virtually anything would work to be able to put it on. I do save all those little scraper tools, and sometimes customers that are freaking out because they've lost theirs, then I have an extra to be able to give them. Or again, just I've been known to use them as stir sticks, and they're good for a lot of things. But you're just gonna rub around the entire transfer, paying a little bit of extra special attention to the edges and the tips, because those are the ones that we tend to kind of miss a little bit maybe. And when you're ready, you can just slowly start to peel it up, and you'll see if there are some sections, so again, just around my edging again, that, you know, aren't adhering. So you just go back over those sections to be able to get them to release onto your project. Some surfaces are easier than others. This is going to be pretty easy because it, you know, I get that it's got chips and dings, but it's relatively flat. And wherever that blue paint is, that's a fairly shiny surface. When I go on to the reverse side of this, which is particularly rusty, it's going to take a little bit more elbow grease to be able to get it on. But that's one of the reasons that I took this and really scrubbed at that rust, to get all the loose particles off, because the loose pieces are just going to adhere to the back of my transfer and make it not stick. So I wanted to get those loose pieces off. If you're really concerned about it, seal that section first. Now you've made sure that any little loose particles are adhered to your surface. You've got a slick surface that you could apply your transfer to. And I'll probably start it without doing that. But if I encounter some difficulties, meaning I'll lay my piece and I'll just do one little section, if it's not adhering, if it's lifting, then I'll stop. I'll seal it with just a clear polyacrylic sealer, and then wait for it to dry, and then apply my transfer and carry on. I will still need to use a polyacrylic to seal over top of that, but I will always test that surface first before I go right in with a big transfer. So lovely. And that's really all there is to it. So I'm going to put on, and what I will do is I will tend to do, there we go, my big blooms everywhere first. And then I'll go back in with, you know, there's some smaller flowers in this, there's some buds, there's the ivy, there's some little, I don't know what kind of flowers they are. They look like violets, but they're on long stems, so they're not, but whatever they are. And then I'll go and I'll use those as filler, coming up around edges, creating a little bit more definition, cutting off some leaves, that sort of thing. So I'll get these big blooms happening first, front and back primarily, and we'll see how that goes. And then I'd worry about like some of the smaller blooms. Don't try and do it all at once. And especially once you've got it laid out, then you have a better idea of how much you need some of those other smaller elements on different sections of whatever you're working on. We've got the outside of this finished, but this is what the inside looks like. So here, this is old cardboard. This is old wood around the sides, but it's in rough shape as well. So here's the dilemma. I mean, if you were doing this for yourself and you were never going to open it, you could just leave it. It's cleaned out. It's rough looking, but it's cleaned out. However, if you were looking at using this as a side table, so you know how people would put legs on here, then it would be necessary to take out this cardboard, or you could leave it in, but you're going to need to insert a wood piece that you're going to be able to screw through into the legs that's going to be able to support the table, right? And then you close it and you use the top as your tabletop. So no, if you were doing that, you would need to add a wood insert into this for sure, because there's not enough support with this and just a little bit of cardboard that's here to be able to take the weight and not have ultimately your legs punch up through the base, through the tin. I'm not looking at using it as a table. I'm not adding legs to this per se. I'm just looking at cleaning it up and it becomes a nice decorative item. It becomes part of a stack of suitcases. It becomes a place that's clean enough on the inside that people could use it as a decorative item, but also store some things away. I mean, if you've got a suitcase that you're using as a decorative item, you would want to have storage. So whether you're putting like a throw blanket in there, or maybe this is a decorative item beside a piano and you're putting your sheet music in there, I mean, whatever it happens to be. So to do that, we're going to line it with some paper. So here's the thing. This is all a rough surface. You are never going to get something that's going to be nice and smooth looking by virtue of that. This cardboard is all rippled. Unless you're going to tear it all out and deal with the aftermath of what that looks like and attempt to be able to insert new cardboard, that kind of thing, which is one way to go. And if, again, I was going to be charging a mint for this, I would expense the time and the effort to do all that. I'm not going to charge a lot for this, so I'm not. However, decoupaging it is also not really an option. Because of the cardboard and the rough shape of everything, one, decoupaging is going to show every lump and bump and ripple. And secondly, the cardboard is going to absorb it all and it's going to make it worse. So we're going to line it with paper, but we are just going to use a spray adhesive in order to be able to kind of create a tacky stick. And I'm actually going to spray the back of the paper before I insert it, rather than spraying into this, so that if I've got some pieces inserted, I'm not spraying down for the next piece to go in and creating a tacky mess on pieces I've already inserted. And I think that the cardboard would absorb all the glue before I could get the paper in. So just a couple of oddball things to have to consider. So it does mean having to measure out all of my pieces first. And I have kind of roughly measured out the base because it's going to be my problem child. So I like to start with the tough pieces first, because if I keep messing it up, I'm not messing up any of the other pieces that are in there. Additionally, this is going to have glue on the back. If I try and insert it and I've got good pieces of my paper already on the sides, chances are I'm leaving traces of the glue on there. If I've got this down and stuck on, when I go to insert the sides, which are far easier, I'm probably not getting the glue where it should not be or does not need to be, if that makes sense. So start with the tricky piece first. Also, because if I can never get that piece in, then I'm not bothering with the rest. And I have to come up with a different solution, which could very well mean I'm having to rip out that cardboard and insert another piece. But it's just not going to be worth it if that's the case. So sometimes what would ultimately look the very best isn't necessarily in your best interest to do, depending upon the use of the product. Now, in order to be able to do this, I am going to open up a big piece of paper, because there's going to be overspray and I really don't want it going all over my desk. So I'm just going to be taking a spray adhesive. In this case, it's Elmer's, and I just have nails sticking out because I use it as a drying rack for things. You know, just in the spirit of make do. And I'm just going to spray a coating, and I just want to pay particular attention to those edges and those corners. I'm just gonna move it off to the side. I'm gonna move this out of the way because I don't want to get all this glue stuck onto the outside of my piece. So just bear all that in mind. And I'm just going to try and work one edge at a time. It's currently sticking to my fingers. I also deliberately selected a paper that had grid lines on the back, just to make my life easier as well. And I have a little squeegee tool that I'm just using as I go to help me try and get as smooth a finish as possible here and get some of the air bubbles out. So you can see I'm working from one edge to the next. I'm working with a really uneven surface, so it's not going to be absolutely perfect. But it's definitely going to look better than it did. All right, and there we go. So what the difference is here is I've selected to use a good grade of wrapping paper, not dollar store for this instance. It's got, you can see, it's got kind of a glossy surface. So it's gonna look a little bit more finished on the inside than one that, you know, the dollar store often are kind of in that matte finish. It's going to be easier to kind of wipe clean if you need to. And it's a way of then getting around not having to decoupage, using this to kind of stick it in so that I'm not, again, damaging the cardboard insert anymore. So I just need to now continue the process with the rest of the four sides here, and then do the same for the lid. And then this one's done. This is the finished inside of our cabinet. And you know what? I didn't even plan for these to match up, but they did. So that was just like a lucky coincidence. All right, and then here's the outside. So this is our rusty side, but you can see like now that rust, which is all sealed because we did our top coat sealer, it's just an interesting finish on it now. We've got some going up the sides, we've got some on the main front, on the other, we even got a little bit on the base. So super cute. Okay, first of all, can't beat the price. I mean, free from the dump, but it becomes a really cute kind of decorative piece. I had been thinking about whether or not I would add rub and buff or something to these edges, but I like them kind of, I think if they were perfect looking, if I really gussied them up with, you know, some gold or whatever, they're going to be out of keeping with the rest of the finish. I think that they've got tarnish and that sort of thing. All I did was I really made sure that I washed off a lot of the rusty pieces. I did seal over top of them as well. So I kind of sealed everything. As I was adding the paper on the inside, I really think doing that spray glue was the option, because this at least looks finished. It at least looks kind of smooth in terms of being done. Any of the upper edging, I just took rough sandpaper to and used that to be able to cut it nice and even. So where I didn't exactly cut with my scissors particularly even, I used the sandpaper to be able to mask that a little bit. And it went a lot faster, a lot easier. And I didn't deal with all of the issues I would have had with decoupaging, just again, because of the rough shape of the cardboard. If the cardboard had been smooth, if it had been kind of, you know how like cardboard sort of has a sealed surface, it would have been fine. But stripping a lot of that paper off and pulled a lot of that top coat of the cardboard off, so you just had that rough interior, it would have been a major headache. And for something that again, I'm always conscious of what's the return on the investment of my time and my materials. Am I going to be able to recoup that cost? The more of my labor time that went into this, the answer was clearly and defined no. So how I would treat this for selling for something that is going to be more a decorative accent for people than a truly functional piece is a whole different discussion, but one that you have to bear in mind if you're doing something for a booth or a market as well versus doing it for yourself. And again, if I was making it into a table, I definitely would have treated what would have been the base, that really rusted side, differently. It would have required a wood insert before I'd be attaching any legs if it was going to have any chance of being durable as a table at all. I hope this was interesting for you. I hope that you got something out of it, if only in terms of some of the decisions that you have to make along the way. And I like sharing with you some of my thought processes, not because mine are the only ones that you should have, but at least then you understand what some of my logic stream was. More than happy if people have other solutions that they can share with you guys too, so you get more input along the way, and it helps me learn too. Just my way is not always the only way, and sometimes it's definitely not even the best way. But shh, don't tell my husband or my kids that. Look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. As always, pop in your comments, and until then, take care.